Okay, so let me take you through like a step-by-step, play-by-play. So first, you're going to get the case history, so which means you're going to interview the parents, and I want to see what is your child's strengths. Like basic things. Okay, can they crawl towards you? Do they give you eye contact?
Right.
If you say, Bob, does he look or does he know his name? Like things like that. So that's giving me an idea of what level they're on. Because if they're like, no, 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 then I'm like, okay, they're not. I'm trying to use like the right terms. Like they're like real well below the functioning, like typical developing 2.5-year-old. So now I know where to start. So before I can even start on like the B sound, which is one of the beginning sounds that you would work on, like buh, like I'm gonna have to start at like just making sure you can just even interact with me. Are you playing appropriately? If I give you a car, are you going to go like this, or are you just going to throw it at me?
Okay.
So just basically just using like 2.5-year-old items and just seeing how they interact, seeing what their strengths are and how we can expand what they're really good at. Mm-hmm. So that could be
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy back again with another episode of Big Boss Talk, the podcast. Listen, today is like no other day, no other podcast. We got another top tier guest. This guest, when I was reading off everything that she sent me, as far as like her career / her job, I was so intrigued because she's a recommendation. So I was intrigued because I've heard about this profession, never really talked to anybody that does it. I think it's awesome that she has the gift to be able to help people along their journey. I don't want to give too much. I just want to kind of introduce in the beginning. But let me read off who I got. So I have Jayah Washington, age 27. Her career, she's a speech language pathologist. All right, college degree. Her degree is in speech language pathology and audiology. Ooh, that's a lot. All right, so years in the profession. She said this is new for her. How new is it?
I literally just got my master's. So that's why I wanted to say, like, I've worked in my field, but because I just got my master's, I like to say, like, well, this is my first year in my career.
Yeah. Like, okay, cool. Well, listen.
I'm class of 2022.
That's what's up. Well, listen, y'all already heard her. So, Jayah, say what's up to the podcast.
Hey, guys.
What's going on? So, listen, it wouldn't be Big Boss Talk, obviously. We always do two truths and a lie. I can't wait to really get this lie. I hope. Listen, I don't know, guys. I don't know some of these guests from a pan of paint or a can of paint, whatever. But we're gonna try to get this lie. So let me see.
Okay, so these are my 3 statements. First was I started off college as a chemical engineering major. Mm-hmm. I have worked in 6 different states, and I was a cheerleader for 18 years.
Jeez. I already know the last one true. I try to do my research on my guests. I see that you went to a state, was a bulldog. So I feel like that's true. You worked in 6 different states, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy. 6 different states. Then the original one, you went to college to be chemical engineering. Chemical engineering. I'm gonna say the 6 states is the lie. I'm gonna say you probably did go to school for chemical engineering, and you probably got some story on how that even changed to what you are working in now. So I'm gonna say the 6 states is a lie.
No, the chemical engineering is like, I actually have worked in 6 different states.
What? Man, what states? Like how you work? How did it work out? Like how you work in 6
So I actually was a speech therapist. I was a speech therapist assistant. So that's what we call it when you have your bachelor's. And I was working for a contracting agency. So as a contractor, I was traveling. So I worked in Washington State, like Seattle. Yeah. I worked in Maryland. I worked in Massachusetts. I worked in Pennsylvania. I've worked in New Jersey. And I've worked in South Carolina.
But that's crazy. So you was kind of like a traveling nurse, but traveling.
Yeah, pretty much. So I've worked in 6 different states since 2017.
Okay, that's what's up. What's your favorite that you worked in so far?
Like my favorite state
We
I've
need we
worked
need
at,
that.
I would probably say when I worked like closest to home, because I live in New Jersey. So I think being like in the tri-state area, like the Philadelphia, New Jersey area.
Words. Are you
So
from New Jersey?
yes,
How the
I'm
heck?
currently here too. Like I'm from here and I live here.
How you get to South Carolina State though?
My mom and my dad went to state. My mom is from South Carolina, so I have a lot of family down there.
Oh,
Did you
okay,
go to
okay.
state?
Huh?
Did you go to state?
Me? No. I
Oh,
just, so, like I said, when I try to get guests, I try to, because I like to ask questions pertaining to, kind of guest lifestyle. So I always try to look and see what they into, what they like. And then I just saw that you went to state, and I'm from South Carolina. So I know a lot of people that went to state,
oh,
right? Know a lot of people that went to state. I actually signed to state on signing day, but that's a whole story in itself. I didn't end up going. Ended up going to a different school, so I would have been a bulldog, but it didn't happen. But I'm just trying to connect the dots because you say New Jersey to South Carolina State. I'm like, it's so many schools before you get to South Carolina State, so it's kind of crazy.
you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that go to it's the HBCU, so it's
Right.
always people from all over that want to go.
That's what's up. That's
So,
what's up.
yeah.
And then you said, oh, you cheerleading for 18 years. How? What? Like, when did you? Where did the love for
I started
cheerleading?
cheerleading. Yeah, so I was doing cheerleading and gymnastics pretty much my whole life since I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And then I just cheered through my whole life. So elementary, middle school, I cheered all through varsity, high school. And then I went to state and cheered all 4 years. So my whole life until basically I graduated college.
Man.
And then, yeah.
Tell these fellas
Secret, I did try out for the Sixers cheerleaders, but then I only made it to the third round. So I was like, maybe one day I might go back.
That's cold. Third round, that's something good to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty deep, right?
I know, but I didn't make it, so I'm ashamed.
Don't hide, man. Don't hide.
Maybe one day I'll be an NBA cheerleader. That's the goal.
That'll be dope, man. For real. But tell people how hard it is to actually be a cheerleader. Like, because I'm pretty sure, like, in like middle school, high school, I was definitely one of those people like, this is not a sport. But then,
Oh my gosh.
I grew up, I wised up, and I was like, nah, y'all cutting these flips and y'all like working out, running, like it's a whole, especially if you compete.
It's a very athletic thing. Like, definitely I think people see like just like the dancing and the stomp shake and they're like, okay, what is this? But then when they see like us throwing people in the air and catching people and tumbling, they're like, whoa, that is like some extreme stuff. So it takes a lot. Trust me, 4 years of 5 a.m. practices, traveling with the band, the football team. And, people don't even realize some like big D1 schools give full rides to cheerleaders. So it's like, it's definitely something that, you can go to school for free for.
Man, listen, trust me, I know. I know some people that went cheering, and they dedicated their time in college to cheer, and the regiment they was on, like just working out, dieting if they had to, and things of that nature. So like it's definitely a sport. I always ask that question because I was always dumb. Like I ain't gonna say dumb. I just was ignorant.
Yeah.
And, I was
most people think that.
Yeah, I was ignorant, so it's always a little joke when I meet cheerleaders. I'm like, it ain't no sport, but it's really a sport. So you can't play around with it. So what I want to do is before we get started, right? I got this kind of like a new segment that I've been starting, but it's called Hot Picks, right? And the biggest thing is just 4 questions, right? 4 questions, and it's just a little bit, kind of get to know you a little bit more, and just kind of understand what you like and things of that nature. So my first question is, I think you already maybe told me, but I see you travel a lot. I don't know if that had to do with the job or just anything like that, but it looks like you travel a lot. Favorite place to travel, and then when you go to this place, what's the number one food choice that you gotta get?
I would say most recently, this past summer, I went to LA and it was like, I did not want to come home. I was like, oh my God, I love it here. It's just so beautiful. Yes. And it kind of gives you, I saw something that said LA gives you the vibes of like you feel like you're on an island, but you're still in America, but then you also are in a big city. So it's weird because it's like, okay, it feels like a city, but also like you see all these beaches everywhere. So it's like, it kind of gives you both that like feel.
Yeah.
I was very like, okay, so I had heard people complain about the food in LA. They say it's overpriced, it's bougie. They give you these little vegan plates.
Right.
So I did my research and went to like all the Black owned, like, I was literally like in Compton, in Inglewood, like going to all the little spots. And people are like, "Oh, you're wilding!" Like what? But that's where the good food was
That's where the food at.
I would say go to like your little local Black-owned spots if you do ever go to LA, because that's where the food is at, and it's the way cheaper. It's regular prices, and it's good.
Bro, that's you are not lying. I just went to LA for my birthday in March. My wife gave me a trip to LA. It was dope. And you do get the. I didn't want to come home either. I live in Texas, so I'm like Houston. I'm like, I didn't even want to come home. LA, just the weather. Like I've never felt like just the perfect weather. You know what I'm saying? Not too hot, not too cold. They slide that breeze in there. And then when you in LA, because we was in Beverly, like close to Beverly Hills, and so like when you see when you're around that type of atmosphere, you like, dang, like it you know, it feel like money out here. Then you run into maybe see a celebrity here and there, so like that was always cool. But you gave me a key. Next time I go, I need to go to Inglewood, Compton, and hit up the food spots. The only place we went is we went to go see Friday, the House for Friday, which somebody's actually living in now. And then we went to Randy's Donuts. You went to Randy's?
No.
The holy, you ain't been to Holy Moly Donut Shop?
No.
Oh man, Friday. So you remember? I don't know. You watched Friday? I think it might be Friday After the Next, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't go. Honestly, I like Insecure, so that was the house that I stopped at. Insecure on HBO, so I was like the tourist of that.
We saw that too,
and that's kind of why I went. Yeah. That was made me want to go to like the Inglewood area, because I'm like, Issa Rae always talks about Inglewood, so let me see what's over here.
Yeah. That's dope. So we went to go the Dooms, so that was pretty cool to go see the Dooms. But that's what's up. So we got that. And then number 2, the question is, what's your number 1 travel rule? Like when you're traveling with people, like what's like a non-negotiable, or like one of those things that every time I travel, like if you traveling with me, you better have your mind right. Like what's the rule when traveling?
I would say have money. I'm a very cheap, and I'm not saying like you gotta come with like thousands of dollars, because it's so funny that you asked this. I literally just posted something like this on my Instagram story, but I'm like a itinerary kind of person. So like I said, for example, since we're talking about LA, I'm the type of person where I make a whole itinerary of like, okay, these are all the places we're going to visit. These are the attractions, all the excursions. Like that's how I am.
Okay.
So one, you need to be down to like be adventurous, ready to do things, like, you know, have fun. But don't come on some like, oh, I only brought $100, and you know, then it's like, okay, like, and I'm talking about what I would expect to happen. I don't really like go on a lot of group trips, but maybe it's for that reason. Like I'm the person, like if I don't have it, I'm like, oh, this is not my time to go somewhere. I gotta lay low. But some people just still be wanting to go and think that everybody's supposed to sponsor them, and it's like, no, that's not how that works.
Oh my God! Listen, traveling is definitely, you gotta find your tribe to travel with. Like you gotta. I've never traveled in a big group before, but I've seen, you know, people may have come travel where I lived, and they were in a big group. And not necessarily that I was out with them throughout their whole trip, but I can see how you got 2 different people, like you want to do this, but they not really trying to feel it. So it's like you can feel the tension, and you can feel like that person is interrupting that trip, and like, well, you shouldn't have came, like, you know what I mean? So always,
that person.
Yeah, it's a rule when you travel. Now with this itinerary, now you said, is there naps involved? Like, are you going nonstop? Like.
Go. I think when I was in LA, I actually surprisingly took a nap, but I actually hiked the Hollywood sign, so that one I feel like I was very exhausted. But no, like I like to do everything. Like I want to like, and I've been to other countries too, so I want to see everything. I want to do like ATV riding and cave tubing, and these are all things that I've done. So I'm just kind of like, there's no sleeping on vacation unless we really just did something and we're like, okay, we know we just stayed out. Like when me and my sister went to Vegas, we slept for like a whole day because we had literally just been out partying for like 5 days straight. So like we just basically just crashed. But no, like you gotta be on go. Like sleep when you get home.
See, you gotta let people know that because some people will be like, we need a nap. So that's okay. That's cool. Number 3, if money wasn't an issue, what would you do? Like your dream, hobby. Maybe it's chilling, not working at all, but just if money's not an issue, you could do whatever you want.
Okay, I would definitely want to go to Bora Bora. That's like my number one place that I want to go to one day. I want to go to Bora Bora. And I'm one of those people that actually like really loves my career.
Okay.
So I know people are like, I don't want to work, but I'm like, I actually love what I do. So I would probably just take my money and open my own practice and then just like hire people under me. And I don't know. I probably just like travel and just buy, like, I love designer handbags. So I probably would get like a whole like walk-in closet just for purses. Something like really weird like that. So it looks like a little boutique.
No doubt. That's not weird at all. So that's pretty cool that you said that, being able to open your own practice and be able to hire people like that's, pretty dope. Like, because money's not an issue. Most people, they are ambitiously lazy. So like if you're saying money's not an issue, like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna be lazy, like, move at my own time, move at my own pace, like I'm not working. But there are some people that really enjoy their career, like that's what they find their purpose in, as far as like, especially in what you do, like you're helping people, like I don't know what that feeling's like when you work with somebody and you help them start to articulate, you know what I'm saying, and they start to like, I can do this again. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that's like. I'm pretty sure you felt that feeling before. We'll get into it, but that's dope. And then the last question is, what's the most underrated thing you have done for yourself?
The most underrated thing?
So it's something like you. I know it's probably a tough question, but something you've done for like yourself that people may not know, but it's helped you tremendously, like 100 times, like most underrated, you know what I mean?
Okay, so actually I actually recently just did something. So I bought the book Woman Evolved by Sarah Jakes Roberts. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know if you're familiar with her. Yeah. And I just like, oh my God, it's so life-changing and I love it. And well, it's like actually not that far from me. I was about to grab it, but I love it. And it really was just like something so small. I'm like, wow, how did this like 200 and something pages just like change? Like the way I think about things and like in life is just so different. And she just worded things. It was so relatable. And I was like, I see why everybody's always posting her and going to her speaking events because it was just really good. So I would say just reading her book and highlighting and taking notes, it was really amazing. So definitely recommend people listening to this to get my books, but then also get her book, Woman Evolved. So yes.
That's dope. Okay, cool. So like that's super, super neat. Like that book, it's so many things that people do that's underrated. Like people, like you tell people some stuff like that and they be like, oh, you read a book, but it's helped you like tremendously because it's opened your mind, it's opened your thought process, it's helped you think, like you said, look at things a lot different. So that's amazing. I'm glad you were able to do that. And definitely if you watching, listening, go get that book. Check it out. See if it can do the same thing for you because it's an underrated gem. So cool. What we're going to do is I always like to start here when we talk about the conversation piece, right? Or what we brought. What did you want to be growing up, right? Young, like what was your dream? Was it always to be in this field or was it something else?
Honestly, like, I feel like for me, all throughout high school, I never really knew what career I wanted. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I've always wanted to be a doctor or a scientist. And I was just like, I knew I had a big personality. I like to talk. I like to be with people. And my mom was the one that was like, you should do something with people. And So she was the one that kind of pushed me into this field. She was like, you like working with kids. You're really creative. I love making things. Yeah. So I think for me, just something that I could just do something that's like fun and interactive. So I just feel like my field is just like perfect for me.
That's dope. So I guess would you say that your mom was a big influence in picking this type of career? And when did you choose this career? Like, was it high school? Was it college? You know what I'm saying? Like, when did you was like, oh, this is the push. This is where I want to go.
Yes, so it was my senior year. My mom was a special education teacher, so she was working with children with special needs, and she was like, "Oh, there's a speech therapist that comes in my classroom, and she does like games and things with the kids, and like she just reminds me of something that you would love to do, so you should shadow her." So one day I just shadowed her, and I was like, "Wow, I really like what you do," and then that's kind of what pushed me to go to South Carolina State because they have like a really good speech pathology program. So I was like, "Okay, I really like this," and I knew I was like, I didn't really want to be a teacher because I didn't want to have a lot of kids. I was like, I don't want to be like a nurse or anything because I'm not good with like blood. Like I was like kind of weighing out. And I was like, okay, this is kind of that in the middle because it's like you can go to teach in like a nursing home or something like that, but you can also be with like little kids. It's a lot of options with it. So that's what I love about it. So yeah, pretty much my senior year of high school when I decided like, okay, this is what my major is going to be, and this is going to help me decide what college I should go to.
Man, that's super dope. Like you were able to, shadow somebody. Like I think that's one of the most underrated things that, we don't do like through high school. Obviously, we having fun. We just going through high school, going through the motion, being kids. But I tend to see people like say they, regret. Like everybody's story is their story. Like your path to what you do is your path. Whether you catch it quick, whether you catch it later, whatever the case may be. I just want to be able to help people not say that I wish I would have done this. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think shadowing is something that, kids should do at an early age. Maybe, 11th grade high school. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe having some type of class where, you could tell people this is what I want to do, and then they give you the opportunity or the networks to be able to reach out to those people and just check it out. You know what I'm saying? Not saying you got to do it, but just check it out. What do have you ever thought about something like that, or just because I you know what I mean? Like,
yes, definitely. So I don't. You said you kind of saw my Instagram. I actually have a YouTube channel, and one of the things that I did was I was already vlogging when I was at state because I was just showing like my life. And then when I was traveling, working in all these different states, I was vlogging that, and I started talking about speech pathology. And I had a video, and it had got like 60,000 views, and it was talking about like the pros and cons of speech pathology. And so many people were reaching out to me like, oh, I love that you're talking about this because like you said in the beginning, a lot of people don't know what it is. It's not that popular. And a lot of people don't have someone that they know personally in that field. So even though I'm like through the internet, it was kind of still the feeling of like a mentor. And a lot of people would reach out to me like, oh, how did you get in the field? Like, how did you get into grad school? And share my story. So that's something that I actually would like kind of love doing also is telling more people about the field and showcasing like through vlogs of me like hands-on doing it. So yes, it's definitely something to like network with people that are where you want to be or doing what you like see yourself doing in the future.
Yeah, that's the key. And then hopefully, something like this can help. Like obviously people can watch a YouTube or listen to a podcast and then they say, oh, she does it. Then they go to your vlog and they follow follow you, day in the life. Because I think that's important, especially if people are being super transparent, like, this is what it's like. It's not always smiles and giggles. Like this is the bad part. If you're not able to handle the bad part, then maybe you shouldn't do this. You know what I'm saying? Like all all professions, like, people, when you think about it, they always show the good stuff, but you never really get the bad stuff. And I think people regret that because if they know what they're getting into, they might have a conscious thought of being like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to do that because that's not where I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't have patience. So that's one of those things. Cool. So so we talk about finding the career. Obviously, a big part of that was your mom pushing you to kind of shadow someone, and it kind of just clicked for you. Then I already kind of figured why you chose South Carolina State is because of your mom and dad. They went to state. But what was your HBCU experience like? Do you obviously nobody ever. Any HBCU student, they never regret it. So I'm not going to ask them, why would you regret it? But what was that experience like going to an HBCU like South Carolina State, coming from Jersey to freaking Orangeburg, because that's different. Culture shock. The bird.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy because I literally just moved from Orangeburg last month. So I'm like, oh my gosh. um, because I feel that. Like literally I've been back in New Jersey for like a month now. So I loved it. I think the thing about I feel okay, especially because this is my biggest comparison because I went there for undergrad and graduate school and
Right.
it took a 4-year gap. When you're an undergrad, there's so much going on. Like, especially for me, like I was in a sorority, I cheered, I did so many things. So it was like I was never bored. And it's always like cookouts and there's a meltdown, there's this, there's this, there's this. So it's like you forget that you're in Orangeburg. Like,
Yeah.
So I loved it. And it's just like we're just like one big family. One big messy family. Like that's what it feels like. And it was small. So it's like everybody kind of knows everyone, but then there's still a lot of random people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like you have so many traditions. Like, you have your like, every Wednesday, everyone's gonna be in the caf. It's fried chicken Wednesday. Or it's Saturday, we got a home game. Like it's a lot of traditions that you build, and I love that.
Man, that's dope. Like my one of my cousins, like my cousin's aunt, but she's like my aunt. Like her whole little group, they went to South Carolina State, and I see them at homecomings every year. Like they like 35 and up, and so they still rocking and rolling at the the homecomings, and it just shows the pride and just the family environment. Because being in a place like Orangeburg, because it's so small, I'm pretty sure you have to create your own fun, your own events, and then just going to those parties is like. Cause you kind of in the hood too now. Don't get it twisted. I don't want anybody that's listening to think that Orangeburg, you kind of in the hood. So it's like some of these parties, you got to have a group of people like, all right, when it's time to go, it's time to go, and I need y'all to be with me on one accord. So I think that's super dope. The HBCU experience. That's one of my like. If I had a regret, that's one of them. It's just I wish I would have went to an HBCU.
I was gonna ask you that, but I feel like you're the one asking the question.
You can't. No. It's an open conversation. So you can ask me what.
Oh, see, I'm like, okay.
Nah, it's an open conversation. I
was gonna ask you what college you went to in the beginning when you said something about college.
So cool. So I went to North Greenville University. So I'm not sure if you ever heard of it. No, it's in Greenville. Like so, it's. Greenville, and then there's Tigerville. Tigerville is the middle of nowhere. Okay, I'm in the woods.
I've heard of Tigerville. I've heard of Greenville.
Yeah, everybody like if you from South Carolina, I mean, if you've been in South Carolina, you probably heard of Greenville. But North Greenville University, I only went there because of school. Ball, the school. But I went there to play football. Small school, really enjoyed it. It's a Christian school. So I come from a different environment. So I was in a big culture shock. If it wasn't for the football team, I don't know. I probably would have been transferred to somewhere like USC, Columbia. You know what I mean? Like, would have did something like that. But it was the football team, and then it was the people that I met on campus. Good people, great people to kind of get to know. But the rules and just the bubble that they keep those students in is crazy because a lot of those students come from a sheltered home. And so you can tell, you know what I mean? Like the football team, we trying to go out. We sneaking, trying to go out, parties. We going to Clemson, Furman. We just trying to get out. But a lot of those kids they stayed on campus and never really did anything, outside of the box. So that's pretty much it. But I wish I wouldn't have went to South Carolina State though. Yeah, but I would have probably gotten too much trouble. So I'm glad I didn't go.
Yeah, easy.
But yeah, so cool. We're gonna move forward. So we got the HBCU experience, which was great. Glad you loved it. Coming from Jersey, I do want to ask, what's the difference? Like, what's the culture difference from coming from the Burgh to coming back to Jersey? Like, what do you miss more? Did you miss Jersey more, or do you miss Orangeburg?
I think to me. Probably the thing with me, like the one thing I do like about I've lived here my whole life, right. So it's a little different. I'm actually like in the process of like moving in 2 months.
Okay.
But I know I moved too much. You're probably like, girl, again.
Nah, you good.
But I think like the thing about like fun fact, New Jersey is the fifth smallest state in America. So what people don't realize, and it's the number one most overpopulated state. So New Jersey's like this big. South Carolina is like this big. It's like
crazy.
huge.
Yeah.
So like how you said Greenville is like could be 3.5 hours away from like Columbia or Orangeburg. Like that don't happen in New Jersey. Like if you drive 3 hours, you're like no longer in the state. Okay,
Oh
like you
God.
can go from the top to the bottom in like 2.5 hours. Like literally go through the whole state. Yeah. So I think to me, like I like that it's small because there's everything is just right there. Like the whole state is like 30 minutes from the beach. Like that's why they had that show like Jersey Shore. And it's also I like that you're like it's suburbs, but you're close to major cities. Yep. So it's like I can get where I live right now. I can get to New York City in like an hour and a half, and I can like get to Philadelphia in like 20 minutes. But I can also get to DC in like 2 hours. But I can also get to Baltimore in 2 hours. Yeah. So it's like you're like you're in this little bubble, but you're so close to everything. So I like that. Being in Orangeburg, and I was just there this past year. Like I said, I just left Orangeburg in May. Yeah. It's like, I'm like there and I'm like, oh my God, I have to drive like 50 minutes to go to the mall. Like I have to drive an hour to Charleston to go to everything. Like I can't even go to like Hobby Lobby or nothing. Like it was a lot. And like that's the one thing I've kind of learned about South Carolina. It's like if you're not in like Columbia or Charleston or like the upstate area, you kind of just stuck a little bit. Yeah. So it's hard. It's a lot of driving to like just one little store that you like.
For sure. That is a fact. Okay, cool.
So, I don't know what part of South Carolina you're from.
Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Okay. So like Rock Hill's nice. Like it has a lot of stores and stuff, so you don't really have that issue. But like when you be in these really rural areas, they'd be like, "Oh no, we gotta drive an hour to Charleston to like do anything." I'm like, "Oh my God." Yeah. You can't really do that in New Jersey because even the rural areas, it's like they have rural areas, but then they're still like 20 minutes from the mall because it's such a small state. Like you can't have that much ruralness for that long.
Yeah, it's small for sure. Like Orangeburg is just one of those places that it's like, it's like I don't even know. It's like awkwardly placed, but hey, people, that's where South Carolina State is at. That's where Claflin's at. HBCUs, really known HBCUs are there. And so, it makes sense, right? Obviously, being a black school, like, that's probably where black people, migrated to, like, that small area. But that's dope. So, you graduated. Once you graduated, tell me about your experience. Did you, have a job automatically coming out of school? Did you have to kind of pace yourself a little bit? Or did you just automatically jump back into school and just kind of start there?
So I was actually one of those people that graduated and the next day was just like crying, like, okay, what do I do next? Because I did not get into grad school. I applied to like 3 schools, didn't get in. And I just was like, I literally just went to go work at the mall. I was like, okay, I have a whole bachelor's degree. Like, what am I going to do? And it took a couple months. And of course, like I started to get things in my field. I started like doing like behavior therapy and working with kids. And then it was finally like, I was really just randomly on Indeed applying to jobs. I was like, I got to figure something out. Right. And the one job, when you're just applying, and it's like, I'm going to like turn the light on.
Go ahead.
You can't really
do your thing. You can turn it on.
Hold on. I'm like, you might not be able to see me in a minute. A little bit. Not really. I used to have a lamp right here.
It's not bad. It actually works.
Okay. Look, I said I'm in process of moving again. But the crazy story is I was on Indeed and literally like the next day a job emailed me and they're like, hey, you applied to be like a speech pathologist assistant at an elementary school. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is my answer. And then like, oh, I just want you to know it's in Pasco, Washington. And I'm like, wait, what? And when you tell people Washington, the first thing they think is DC. They don't think like, no, like
it's
the West Coast, the other side of the country. And I was like super scared. It was my dad. Now it's my dad that's motivating me. He's like, you should do it. Like, and that to me was a bigger culture shock. Like at least New Jersey is diverse. At least South Carolina is diverse. Washington, on the other hand, once you go past like Nebraska, all these other states, you don't see a lot of people that look like us. So it was interesting, but I took it and I was only 22 and I went to go live out there by myself to work at a school, and then from there I just kept getting jobs and stayed with that company and just kept traveling with that company. So that was my story. So this the moral of the story is you have to be patient. What's meant for you will be meant for you. And through that 4 years, that's where I worked in all those different states, and I was really having a hard time getting to grad school. And then finally, I was like, you know what? Let me just go back to state. And I did get into it. Eventually, I did get into other schools, but I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to state because it's where I'm comfortable. I already know the professors, and they have a really good program. It's accredited. It's like, you know, it's well known. Yeah. And yeah, now I'm finished.
Let's go. So we finished. Okay. So I mean, that's a story. I mean, that's a common story, right? We talk about graduating college. You know, we expect to, you know, obviously, like, look, I done put in my time. I need this job ASAP. Like, trying to.
We all want this like 6-figure job at the end of, like, you know, but it's like, in reality, that's just not always going to happen. And I think that we see that so much on social media. We see this person like, oh my God, I'm working for Microsoft. I'm working for Amazon. I'm working for all these companies. You're like, oh, I'm just, you know, doing nothing. But you can't compare your journey to other people. Mm-mm. And that's something that I really have learned over the years.
Man, that's a gem. I mean, because you went through a series of rejections as far as like trying to get into grad school. Then, you know, when you first got out, I don't know if you know, was it I don't know, were you depressed at the time where you wasn't getting jobs, right? Because that's a big thing as far as like mentally, you know, handling that type of rejection, because all your life you've been told like go to school, do your thing, and then after you graduate, you know, you get a job. But it didn't work out like that in the time that you wanted it to. And so I always want to highlight those things because it happens to a lot of college students, like, you know, rejection, not getting a job as soon as you get out. But it's like you don't want to sit on your butt that time. You know, you want to kind of keep working, keep yourself actively doing things to get paid. So what did you learn about yourself in that time frame of just not obviously not having a job in your career field, and just what made you stay motivated to keep applying, because some people phase out a little bit?
Yeah, and there was moments where I considered going into other career fields, but I think like when I say I'm passionate about my career, like I really am passionate, and I think it was like even when I lived in Washington, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really have a good time because it was just so different. I was so far from, like, I had no family, no friends, like nobody. But the one thing I loved going to work every day. Yeah. So that was like the one thing that kept me motivated of being there, even though I'm like, oh my God, I would call my mom like, Mom, I'm in Target and I'm the only Black person in this entire Target. Like, this is not okay. Like, and then this was like the year when the Get Out movie, like I literally went with somebody to go see that movie. Like while I'm living, I'm like, oh my God, this is how I feel like every day being here. You know, like, so it was just interesting me. So I would definitely say like just seeing like how you talked about it earlier, like that impact that I had on kids, like, and working with like children with all different types of needs and nonverbal children, all that. And they like, I had such a good bond with them. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like God wants me to be in this field. So no matter like what I have to go through, I know it's going to be worth it. Yeah. So I think that's what kept me motivated. And then of course, like I realized like you can still do other things. Like I love like blogging and all that other stuff. So it's like, you know, it's not to sell. You can just only have one career and that's it.
Right. You got to be creative. I've been in places like that. I would say living, you know, going to, for me, I think a situation like that would be, you know, Greenville. Even though Greenville's like it's diverse. I would say the college I went to made me feel like that. It wasn't a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? I was, you know, it was not too many Black people there, and if they were, they just played sports, right? And so that feeling of just trying to blend in, be accepted, you know what I'm saying? You go through all of that, and then it's just like, but you there for a reason. And I think I was there because of the relationships that I was able to build and the friends that came out of it. You know what I'm saying? I still have 2 of my college roommates to this day. Like we're super tight. They about to be dads. You know what I'm saying? Like they about to have their first kids. So just being able to see that journey and be able to, you know, watch them, you know, I take that, you know, I would have never got those relationships without going to that school. So that's one of those things that I'm appreciative for. And I think that's one of the things that I had to go, you know, and pick up on my journey, right? I had to go pick up those relationships because I know later in life, you know, I'm going to need them. They might need me. and we just gonna always be there for each other and rock with each other. So everything you do definitely has a purpose, and I think you just gotta find the silver lining in everything. So talk to me about what you do on a day to day basis. Like how if I came to you, can't talk. I don't. I'm not. I'm trying. I shouldn't be laughing. Like this is serious. Like this is a serious thing. But what I'm saying is if I had I guess an ailment, or just I wasn't able to talk, or what type of patients do you see?
Okay, so for me, I'm going into more of like school home based clients. Okay. So typically, like everyone I see is gonna be probably under the age of 8. Okay. Like I'm gonna like I like school age, so okay. Like pretty much like preschool. And let's say if I have I have a client that I'm about to start working with next week, a 2.5-year-old, so a toddler. Okay. And at 2, you should be saying things like, "Oh, mom, dad, I want this." Like 2.5, you're about to be 3. Yeah. So this 2.5-year-old can't do those things. So it would basically be me kind of like using different toys and just kind of using different ways for them to communicate. It might be a device. I worked with an 8-year-old nonverbal autistic child for 3 years. Like he just didn't talk, but he was so smart and could understand everything right. Like, and he had an iPad, a device. So it's basically just finding ways of communication. And sometimes it is, like you said, Arctic earlier, like kind of they might not be able to pronounce like S or T or one of those sounds. So just doing like different therapy methods. And I'm really creative. So sometimes I'll create games, I'll create different little projects, activities for them. And I just like for everything to be really hands-on. And yeah, we're going to get on the floor. We're going to go outside and play. My little 8-year-old used to go outside and just walk around his neighborhood and just point to different things. And so it's a very interactive job, and I love it.
That's cool. Okay, so I'm a toddler. So we're going to do like a little, just take me through like a session, right? I'm 2 years old. I can't, I'm not speaking how I'm supposed to speak right now. I'm not saying things that I need to be saying. My parents, they come holler at you like, hey, my kid, he's not developing at the right rate, da da da. Like, what do you do? Like, are you trying to get to know me? What's the first thing that you're gonna do? Like, if I'm in your care, what's the first thing that you would do?
Okay, so let me take you through like a step-by-step, play-by-play. So first, you're going to get the case history, so which means you're going to interview the parents, and I want to see what is your child's strengths. Like basic things. Okay, can they crawl towards you? Do they give you eye contact? Right. If you say, Bob, does he look or does he know his name? Like things like that. So that's giving me an idea of what level they're on. Because if they're like, no, then I'm like, okay, they're not. I'm trying to use like the right terms. Like they're like real well below the functioning, like typical developing 2.5-year-old. So now I know where to start. So before I can even start on like the B sound, which is one of the beginning sounds that you would work on, like buh, like I'm gonna have to start at like just making sure you can just even interact with me. Are you playing appropriately? If I give you a car, are you going to go like this, or are you just going to throw it at me? Okay. So just basically just using like 2.5-year-old items and just seeing how they interact, seeing what their strengths are and how we can expand what they're really good at. Mm-hmm. So that could be, me bringing like these little toys and items and just really spending time with that child and just really trying to pull out language. And language could also be just me getting them to say, this is a ball, can you point to the ball? And they can point to it. And teaching them that first before I even start to teach them how to say that word. Okay. So that was your speech pathology lesson of the night.
Let's go. Okay, cool. I appreciate that. So, I mean, that's something like if somebody wants to be a speech pathologist, this is some of the things that, they have to really understand. Like I'm pretty sure it's a slow grind. And it takes a lot of patience. So I want to thank you for being in this field, because I'm pretty sure, patience is one of your strong suits, especially with working with kids. What are some of the things that, that you find difficult in your job? Like things that you wish, like, if there was a better process for this, or like, I wish we did this, you know what I'm saying? Or I wish we had help doing this.
I would say definitely when you're a speech therapist in a school, you're like pulling kids out the classroom. And one thing that they don't a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of paperwork. Like there's definitely a lot of meetings, a lot of documentation, a lot of IEPs, which are like pages and pages long that you have to fill out. You have to document everything. So I would say definitely like someone to just kind of help organize that. And there's just a lot. There's a lot of paperwork. Like it looks like all fun and games. Literally, you might, it's like, oh, they're in speech and they're playing a board game. And then it's like, that speech therapist, the school might get out at 2:15. That woman might be there to like 4:30, just like filling out stuff.
Right.
So, and when you're in the school, you're not getting no overtime or anything. So you're like salary, this is what you make. So you stay here till 7:00 at night if you want. We're not paying you more. So there's just, like I said, like on my YouTube, when I did a video of like pros and cons, like there's just, I feel like that's what everything, that nothing is going to just be perfect. So it's like, you have to just accept like, okay, I know if I'm in this setting, I know there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot that I'm going to have to write, but I know that I might get paid a little bit more, or I might have to work longer hours. So it's always like, you just have to weigh it out. Especially for me, like I'm in that, like I said, I just got my master's. So I'm in that in-between phase of like, applying to jobs, deciding where I want to live, deciding what setting I want to go to. Even though kind of now I've decided. So yeah.
Gotcha. So it's a lot to think about. You know what I'm saying? You moving on to the next chapter, and it's just a lot going on at this point in time. So I had a question and it went blank, but I will ask, what makes you good at what you do? Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, what makes you the person that's like, nah, I'm really dope at what I do. Like, I'm built for this. I'm made for this.
Yeah, I would definitely say my personality, because just like how I've been talking to you, like I'm very like energetic, very smiling. And this is how I talk to all of my clients. I've worked with someone that had a stroke. I worked with a 76-year-old man last fall semester of graduate school. And like, I don't want to say I'm not going to talk to him the same way I talk to a 2-year-old, but I'm still like just very energetic. So like the way I'm talking to the 76-year-old, me and this 3-year-old, we're going to like, I'm going to still have that same energy, same smile. Like, and that's just me. And that could be, like I said, I cheered for 18 years. So I'm already on like peppy, like vibes all the time. Exactly. Like that's just me all the time. So I think when I'm like in my field, I kind of still have that same like cheerleader, like, all right, so today we're like, that same hypeness.
Okay, cool. That's what's up. So obviously, if you're listening, watching, if you want to, kind of get in this career path, get in this field, make sure, she already said patience. Number 2 is the energy has to be there. You treating all your patients, clients the same. You don't see, all you see is their problem, and you trying to help them solve their problem. Like any other issues outside of that, because I know you probably deal with parents, you deal with family members, and that can sometimes play a part too. Maybe parents don't think that you're operating with their kids the right way. Like there's so many different things that can probably come into your day-to-day of work. But those are the main things that kind of that makes you great at what you do. Now, my question I did remember is this career path, would you say is heavily saturated? And then also, is there a lot of us in this career path?
Okay, so to answer the first part of that question, no, because it's not heavy saturated, because it's very much in demand. Like I said, it's not new, but it's definitely something that there's always a need. Another reason why I love this field is because you'll always have a job, no matter what state, no matter where you live. There's always a need for speech pathologists in schools and hospitals and nursing homes. So definitely we need more. The statistics say that 8% of speech pathologists are minorities, and then 3% of that are Black.
Wow.
So it is a very small percentage of us. I actually went to an event in DC this past November, which was Black SLP Magic, and it was just all like Black speech pathologists from all over, and it was amazing.
That's awesome.
So when we get together and it's hundreds of us, it feels like, wow, we have such a community. But then when we're like, oh, but I live in California. Oh, I live in New York. Oh, I live in South Carolina. Like, we're spread
It's all
out,
over
but
the
it's
place.
like, it's good when we can all come together because it is such a small amount of us and it is such a small community. And then the thing, like, we have things like Instagram and Facebook where we all can like continue to network and stay in touch and talk about things that we're going through. Like, I've had to deal, and I love that because I've also worked in a lot of inner cities. I worked in Philadelphia. I worked in Camden, New Jersey. And it's like, it's good when they see that representation because a lot of things with speech, like, I feel like when I'm working with like my African-American clients, they understand certain things that I know that my like white coworkers may not get. And I even noticed that when I was in my externship in Charleston this past semester. I'm like, oh, he says that because this is, what is the word? The colloquialisms or code switching,
Yeah.
So just like, oh.
Okay, cool.
But that's why you need us, for us to talk to our children the way that they understand.
Definitely need that. Need more people like you in that career path. So I'm glad I asked that question. And then, so if you can believe it or not, we've been talking for about 50 minutes. It flew by fast. I really enjoyed the conversation. Like, I've learned so much about being a speech pathologist. And I hope that any child person that's listening to this and they have a niche for what you do, or they feel like that's a calling for them, I hope that they can listen to this, pick up on their on their calling, and just find their purpose, and then obviously go forward. I want to spend the last couple of minutes talking about a little bit of your extracurriculars, right? So you talked about being an author, a book. How did that come about? And why did you feel like you needed to create a book?
So it kind of ties into like what I was just saying. When I was living in Massachusetts, I know I lived in a lot of states. I was living in Massachusetts, and once again, it was kind of the same thing. Like, I had a lot of that time I actually had a lot of minority students, and I noticed that like a lot of the materials in the schools and in the classrooms, like, you just don't see us represented. So I wanted to have a Black children's book, but I think I wanted it for that all kids can read it. And it's no disrespect. There's a lot of amazing African American children's books that talk about our hair, our skin, like all those things. And I was like, what about the children's books that are just regular children's books that are fun? And I wanted to have them rhyme. So I always tell people I feel like I'm like the Black Dr. Seuss because my children's books, they're rhyming stories.
Yeah.
And it's a series. So I have 3 of them. And that process for me was, I was just, in my apartment, I was like, I'm going to write a book. And they're pretty short. It's like 200 words, but it's perfect for like I said, like that 8 and under crowd. They love it. And it's rhyming. So it's easier to read. It's easier. And it's fun to just read with your little one. And so my goal is to have 20 books. And
how's the people like been purchasing them, and everything's been kind of going well
with
the book?
So I've been an author since 2018.
Wow.
I've sold like well over 1,500 books. I'm not on Amazon. I literally just 100% on a www.jayahandjaydenseries.com. That's me plugging myself in.
Yeah.
And it's 100% like through me, 100% owner. So I don't have to worry about like anybody taking 40% or anything. So yes, go the self-publishing route to anybody that wants to publish a book.
Yeah.
It is very much possible. I found an illustrator through just like a friend that I was talking to one day, and she was like, hey, I know someone that draws, and I just hit her up, and she's been my illustrator ever since. And so pretty much I love it. That's something else I would probably definitely would love to do full time, just write children's books and sell them, and work with kids.
That's dope. The Black Dr. Seuss. All right, cool. I love it. Black Dr. Seuss. I need to check those out. But what I'll do is after the podcast, whatever, if you want to send me all your social media handles and all of that good stuff, that way I have them, because it's gonna be going across the screen as the videos. Anybody that's watching this on YouTube, whatever the case may have you, it'll be in the description as well. So that way they can always stay in contact with you. And if they need anything, maybe they have a question, reach out to you and see what's up. I would say I had this, as far as what's the question I want to ask? Okay, here we go. So what is some advice that you would give to someone trying to find their passion? You know, like what's some advice? I know that's a very broad, kind of tough question, but I want to help people figure out their niche, kind of like how you did. So what's some good advice?
Write down everything that you love doing. Right? Just write it down. I'm a big journaling person. I know, being an author, but I would definitely say, what do you love doing? Like, what do you get excited? Is that fashion? Do you love doing hair? And also, like, I believe in, like, when you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Like, that's a big quote to live by. So think of, like, what would you do for free?
Right.
You know, I know everybody's like, how would everyone do just something all day for free? But it's like, what do you just enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And I would definitely say, just write that down. Like, write the things that you like doing. And for me, like I said, I liked being around people. I liked making things. I liked being creative. I liked having fun. You know, someone that's probably like super shy and doesn't really want to work and talk to people all day might want to do something that's more, you know, they sit behind a desk or sit behind a computer. So they might find something that they like, you know, that's more entertaining for them.
Yeah.
But definitely write down what you would do for free or what you just find joy in doing.
For sure. Appreciate that. That's a good gem. Big gem that's being dropped, and we appreciate it. Last thing before you go, I need a recommendation. Somebody I can talk to, somebody that fits the mold of the podcast. This is how we keep everything going. Just like yourself, you were recommended. So somebody thought very highly of you and thought you were,
wow, really?
and thought you were a super dope person. So I would love to just kind of get you to pass it forward, and see if we can get somebody. Well, I know we can get them, but just let me know who it would be that you would recommend, and I'll get them on you.
Okay. Okay, wait, I have to say their names right now.
You don't have to. I know I put you on the spot. You don't have to.
Oh, I would definitely say, okay. So I would definitely say, I know this is, what's the word? Nepotism?
Yeah.
Because I was about to name my little sister. Maury Washington, she actually is really amazing. She's an editor.
Okay.
She edits my books, and she also lives in Rhode Island, which is very unique. You should ask her about that journey. Because I know you probably don't know anybody that lives in Rhode Island.
No.
So just like, I feel like it's pretty cool when you talk to people that live in different states. And she works at Providence College. So she's also works with people that are like ESL and the diversity. And you can talk to her about that because she also she went to Claflin, and then going from Claflin to working at a school that's very not diverse. She's explains a lot, talks a lot about that. So that could be something very interesting, that transition of being a student and then being an employee at a very unique university. And it's also a Catholic school. So like how you said, Christian school, she also can talk about the rules and being on the other end as an employee.
Yeah.
But so definitely her. I'll give you her information.
Yeah.
And I will recommend, I don't want to say both my sisters because that's kind of, but I have another girl that's from New Jersey too. She's a nurse. Her name is Kiana Lewis, so I would say her too.
Got you. That'll be dope. So if you can send me their information and let them know, like, hey, I just did this podcast with this guy Armand. Not, cool podcast, great purpose. But he gonna hit you up. He's gonna ask to see if you want to be a part. If they say no, that's totally fine. If they say yes, that's great as well. But if you could just send me that information, I'll reach out to him, and we'll go from there. But other than that, I hope you have fun.
Yes, I know. It's like dark hair. You're in Texas?
Houston, yeah.
I don't know why I thought you were in New York.
You thought I was in where? South Carolina?
No, I thought you were in New York because I just saw your hat and the Biggie stuff.
Nah, I don't even talk like I'm from New York, so I can't.
No, I didn't even hear you talk at first. I just saw, like, when you came on here, I was like, oh, is he in New York?
Yeah, for sure. But I just like the hat. The hat's pretty cool. And then my man over here, Biggie, I just, he's dope to me. Kind of like one of my top favorite artists. So, but I'm not from New York. I'm from South Carolina, but I live in Houston. It's been a ball. Love it. And so it's great. But other than that, I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It wasn't too bad. When did you graduate state undergrad?
When did I graduate? Yeah. I graduated in 2016.
Cool. Do you know a cheerleader by the name of Jayah McCrory at all? Jada McCrory.
Oh, Jada McCrory. Oh, yeah, because he said you're from Rock Hill.
Yeah.
And she's from Rock Hill.
Okay, cool. I didn't know. Yeah.
And I know KP or
K-
Khadijah Patterson. KP. I don't know if you
yeah,
know
KP.
her.
Yeah. So her mom actually taught us in high school. So her mom was
Jada's mom
KP.
or KP's mom. Oh,
KP.
and KP also lives in Houston also.
She does. Yep, she does. So it's pretty cool. I know those guys just because we went to high school together. So we all went to the same high school. But I just had to ask. But other than that, I'm gonna let you go.
Yes, and they were both cheerleaders.
Yeah, both cheerleaders.
Exactly. All right.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. It was so
No
fun.
problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you. I'll let you know when the episode is gonna drop. You'll probably see me just because I'm gonna tag you in it and everything. But can't wait to edit it and chop it up and make sure it looks good.
Okay. Yes. Thank
No
you.
problem. See ya.